What's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14, and also featuring that newest version of college football Revamped. We are jumping into a brand new season as we already come in to week number 2 of this third season of the NCSL Dynasty, and got a lot of good games on our hands here today. We got 16 nationalized televised games coming in your direction shortly. We will be going around the country to watch some college football action here today. And not only that, we are going to get some studio updates and see some scores from around the league, as we're still looking for, teams who truly belong in that top 25 or teams that are just truly pretenders. So guys, it's going to be a fun one as we continue on this trip for these 12 teams to make it into the college football playoff. Which 12 will make it in? We'll get closer to answering that question and so much more. And with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. I'll see you guys on the fields around the country. So we will start our week number 2 action in the West Coast. We got Oklahoma State taking on UCLA, two of the more higher power offense that we have witnessed in the early going in the season. We'll see if that holding pattern continues as we progress through year number 3, as UCLA looks to get back into the college football playoff and coming on a strong start as well, able to get 10 quick points on the board against Oklahoma State. And the Cowboys, they quickly fall into a very deep deficit as they had a hard time containing UCLA in the first half. They actually storm off to an extremely large lead, seeing this lead grow as big as 24 points in the game, as that somehow ricochets through. Kicker really going to work, maybe getting a little bit lucky as well. But here we are late in the third quarter. UCLA has a chance to add some more points onto the board, dumps it off, and it's a nice little run for this tailback who's able to get 6 yards out of the backfield. That's the 5th catch of the day for Jake Cook. So it sets up a much more manageable third down coming up, and just plenty of time in the pocket for Brian Daniels, who's just going to throw it over to his receiver, Jeff Phillips. Phillips going to get out of bounds and also manages to pick up that first down as well. Very next play, looking to keep it in his hands as Brian Daniels, he is wide but naked open, finds his way into the end zone. Touchdown UCLA, and it was a dominant performance for that number 5 team in the country. But now we look to see if we can find some more competitive games in this NCSL week number 2 as we get a octo box kind of deal, at least a little quadruple box kind of thing. First, we'll start with the number 1 team in the country. That is the Texas Longhorns, coming off of a big time win against the University of Nebraska. They are taking on a winless Kansas team, but this Kansas team is proving that they should not be overlooked by any means, as Kansas is actually going to draw first blood against this number 1 team in college football. Texas will be down 7-0, but later on in the quarter, Longhorns are trying to put together a drive of their own. And with that catch by Johnny Branch, that will get him inside the 15-yard line. We'll see if Chase Ingram and company can finish the deal as 2nd and 4. Throwing over the middle, it's completed to Walter Sims. An easy catch made for the first down. Now looking at a goal line situation. Texas looking for its first points of the game, and Chase Ingram is going to shove down a defender in the process. And Ingram will get the scoring started now for the University of Texas, as we are now tied 7 apiece as we jump into that second quarter of action. And after that first quarter where Kansas was hanging around for a little bit, Texas seems like they are more than prepared to blow this game wide but naked open. Is less than 30 seconds left in the first half. Gonna dump it off to Trey Dixon. That's the tailback for the Texas Longhorns. Sets him up at about midfield, but then very next play though, Ingram is going to want to throw this ball deep. He's got a man down the sideline, and that is going to be an easy score for Chase Ingram, who's been having an absolutely electric first half, almost 200 yards passing in one half of football. So now 28-7 after that, as Texas has really started to assert its will and assert its dominance on this game. And that is more than evident with this touchdown run, as Chase Ingram does not get touched until he gets well in that red zone. Should be a late hit, but it certainly was not that at all. And Texas dominating thus far, 35-14. They did get a 50-burger last week against Nebraska. Don't know if they'll get that 50-burger once again, but one thing is extremely clear is that this offense is humming along at an extraordinarily high level right now, and that was more than evident in this one as Texas wins 49-14. They almost put up 50 once again. As now we go over to the West Coast as we check in on number 8 Washington. They'll be taking on the Bears of Baylor. Baylor got a starting quarterback of ours. That is one of your guys' custom players. That is Les Jordan. And his Baylor team making it very interesting on Washington to start this ball game. And matter of fact, Baylor up 14-3. So we got a little bit of an upset alert here late in the first quarter of action. But that being said, Washington looking for a touchdown of their own, going to their quarterback. This is a brand new quarterback, Adam Castillo. Previous quarterback did end up graduating, looking to get to the NFL. As now 14-3, still your score early in the second quarter. Adrian Nicholas will pick up the first down, and this is what the Huskies do like to do. They are a run-heavy football team, but like to do it in a multitude of ways. They're just not going to be a specific power run team or just specific spread team. They're going to give you different looks throughout this game, which really what makes Washington just so difficult to defend, right? As we'll see the quarterback take the snap here, and not great vision by Adam Castillo. I would have cut it upfield a little bit sooner personally, but hey, sometimes there's different ways to get to the same correct answer, and I'm sure they're going to be more than satisfied with that final result, and that is adding yet another touchdown on the board. But Wes Jordan will go ahead, get his guys down the field one last time. They do pull within a touchdown as we do jump into the second half. And all the credit to the world, to this Baylor Bears squad. They're hanging around, they're keeping themselves within that striking distance. But can they keep this Huskies offense out of the end zone? They can't afford to give up many more points if they want to pull the upset. And I thought Andy Curtis got himself into that end zone, but they are not going to rule it as a touchdown. Instead, that will be ruled inside the 1-yard line, but no problem for Adam Castillo early in the fourth quarter, able to punch it in himself. So Baylor now just looking to try to make this as close as possible. They will need nothing short than an absolute miracle if they want to come out and somehow win this ball game. They are in a goal line situation though, and your custom quarterback, Wes Jordan, he's going to find the end zone here. Touchdown for the Baylor Bears, and now we'll see if they can make this 2-point conversion work. This will make it a 10-point game if this is converted. Jordan has a little bit of time, but rolls away from who he wanted to throw the ball to. So straight up, they will need 2 touchdowns to win this. And you also got to keep, again, Washington out of the end zone. As Baylor running down to its last timeouts, they just used their final one. So they will need a turnover at this point. Washington could take a knee and they would be okay, but instead they run up the score as Adrian Nicholas is going to find the end zone. Touchdown for the Huskies as they will beat the Baylor Bears here, 45-26. That being said, we now keep ourselves over in the West Coast as Texas Tech makes the trek up to Boise, Idaho to take on the Boise State Broncos in this early season non-conference matchup. And this has some real sickos committee vibes to it. We're about 30 seconds left from the first half, and we've only seen one touchdown that we actually didn't get a chance to record on screen. That was simulated as it did happen outside the red zone, inside and not inside the 3-minute mark either. But we'll jump right into the fourth quarter because things get a little bit more spicier in that fourth quarter of action here, as Brown's going to find the end zone for the Boise State Broncos. That gives them really their first lead that we witnessed them had throughout the day. If we're being honest with ourselves, they'll go for the 2-point conversion. 2-point conversion is actually good, and you see the Pacific Live game summary, you're actually surprised with the number of yards that both teams have had. So it's not that neither team's been able to move the ball downfield, it's just that they haven't done anything in the red zone. A lot of missed opportunities by both squads, but Texas Tech makes the most of their opportunities, winning the turnover battle, and more importantly, winning the game. But now we check in on the number 11 ranked team in the nation, the Miami Hurricanes, taking on an FCS opponent. Actually, they're going to be taking on North Dakota, home of the Fighting Hawks, and they're part of the Missouri Valley Football Conference down the FCS level. But this is going to be looking that North Dakota might be taking here today, as Marcus Amos is going to run through multiple North Dakota defenders, as Miami quickly balloons this lead up to 14-0. So the game is already starting to get out of control just a little bit. North Dakota has not really had many answers defensively, and Amos again going to work, breaks a couple more tackles. This one for not as long of a run, it only ends up being 5 yards, but the way that Marcus Amos is getting those 5 yards just shows how much more physical Miami is compared to their FCS counterparts. As we now jump into the second quarter, hoping for North Dakota that the second quarter is just a little bit better, but that was really never the case, as this game was never really in doubt. Miami was able to win this one pretty easily, 62-14, ending up being your final score. Now, we do have some studio updates for the first time in this episode, and we start with Colorado, who is able to get their very first win of the year. They were able to go on the road and beat Pitt by a touchdown. In other news, we also have Oregon actually in a tough battle against the Akron Zips, but Oregon able to survive the upset as they win their first game of the year. And Arkansas doing the same thing. They win their first game of the year, narrowly beating out Louisiana Tech. But now we get some more actual gameplay on our hands, and one notable ranked opponent, we got number 15 Florida on the docket. But before we jump into that Florida game, we'll check in first on South Carolina. They are going to be taking on the Cavaliers of Virginia here. Virginia does have one of your custom coaches. I believe it's Coach Triplett, but really excited to see if Virginia will be able to get their first win of the season or not. But right now, not looking great by any means. South Carolina is already up 10-0 already in this particular ball game. And it looks like South Carolina on the verge of knocking on the door once more, as they will fake the run. It's going to be a play action. Got a man open in the corner of the end zone. That's Walter Archie, who is a transfer from the FCS ranks. So South Carolina, needless to say, definitely dominated this first half of action. Virginia does tack on a field goal so they don't get shut out, but the Cavaliers do have a lot of work that needs to be done if they want to come back and win this game. We'll see if our custom coordinator is up to the challenge. He's the new OC at Virginia, as we got a nice little throw over to the outside, finding Barbatu Underwood inside the 5-yard line, as it will set up a play action to Paul Spurlock for the touchdown. That is the backup tight end that is able to get open. So Virginia, just like that, they are actually right back into this football game, and really starting to see some anxiety in the South Carolina stadium, as South Carolina still in a close one against the Virginia Cavaliers, a game that they really should have been favored in. But here we are in the fourth quarter. Virginia is down by 10. They're going to need a little bit of lady luck if they're going to pull this win out. Fourth down, they need to pick this up first and foremost, and they're actually going to get it. Jordan Lee picking up that first down. I thought he did not get it, but the refs disagreed, and they didn't even take a look at it for review. I was actually kind of surprised by that, because that could have been an extremely big call in this game. But that being said, it's another 3rd and goal. Virginia just trying to get a little bit closer. They know they are going to go for it here once again on 4th down. They are not accepting the field goal, so you just got to risk it for the biscuit, and it looks like the biscuit is going to pay off. Jordan Lee finding the end zone once again. Touchdown, Virginia. And the Cavaliers only down by a field goal all of a sudden. They were able to keep South Carolina out of the end zone, so this Virginia Cavs team, they have a shot to either tie or maybe even win this football game. And a couple plays later, sure enough, this quarterback's got plenty of time. He's going to let it loose down the sideline. And Barbatoon Underwood gets behind the defense. William Whaley puts it right on the money as well. And how about this? Virginia able to pull the shocker against South Carolina in ACC action. So that is certainly a little bit of a shocking result that we saw unfold right before our eyes. And now we go ahead and check in on South Florida, going on the road, going to Gainesville, taking on this Florida team that is ranked number 15 in the entire country. We'll see if USF will have anything to say about it by the time this game is all said and done. As South Florida already up 7-3 for playing some pretty good ball here in the first quarter of action, and they're knocking on the door once again. Another goal line situation for the USF Bulls, and they will go 2 for 2 in red zone conversions as Sean Marshall is able to find the end zone. That is a touchdown for Benjamin Williams, and now USF up by a few. But Florida, they are not going to give up that top 25 ranking very easily. And how about this throw by BJ Peters? That was thrown on a dime. And oh boy, was he a dime dropper in this one. They need him to be one of those quarterbacks today, because USF, they clearly came to play. They were not going to roll over here in SEC conference action. As now we got Florida ready to try to retake the lead. They will do that with 7 minutes left to play. We'll see what the response for USF is. 1st and goal inside the 5-minute mark, and USF is going to take the lead with 5 minutes to play. USF will lead, but those are not the last points that were scored, as Florida does score late, and they still find a way to win the ball game. So even more action coming in our direction. How about USC, the defending national champions? They will be playing a little bit later. We also got the thumbnail game in this next slate of games happening here on the channel. First, we will check in on JD Weeks. He is the offensive coordinator of Troy, and his team is on the road and taking on the number 17 ranked LSU Tigers. So LSU needing to win this game after a disappointing Week 1 performance that we actually saw here on the channel as well. I believe they lost to South Alabama, if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah, LSU got manhandled by South Alabama. You absolutely hate to see that. So definitely, you rarely like to use the must-win term, considering it's just week number 2 in the season. But at the same time, if they don't win this game, going 0-2 when you were like a preseason borderline top 10 team in the country, awful look, terrible look, I would say. So here we go. LSU, thankfully for them, they came out and came really prepared to play in this particular game, as LSU was in pretty firm control, seems like, this entire time. They do even get to that 30 burger, which is good for them, because we know how inconsistent on offense could certainly be at times. But LSU does end up winning 33-16, a game that they needed to win. Elsewhere, we check in on California. They have a team flying all the way across the country just to play these Cal Bears in Berkeley, California. That is the Louisville Cardinals, who dropped their season opener and are looking to avoid that dreaded 0-2 start. Meanwhile, Cal trying to go in the opposite direction. They won their previous game, and they're looking to get to 2-0, and well on the path to accomplishing that, as Cal was already up 17-0. But Louisville is still on Vidorville as the Louisville Cardinals are trying to go ahead and bring it down and get on the scoreboard for the first time today. And that's the thing. Not only is Louisville struggling to compete in this particular ball game, it's also that Louisville, they haven't even scored yet in this game. That's what you really hate to see the most, but that does eventually change as quarterback Ryan Charles is just going to take it in all by himself. And finally, Louisville is on the board. But can their defense also step up to the task and stop this Cal offense? A good Cal offense creating that opportunity over the middle. That is Andrew Jackson throwing the ball to a wide but naked open receiver, just making it look way too easy in that regard. And so Cal has a convincing lead at the half. They're up 24-7 already, and they're looking to really send a message here early on in the season. Style points in college football definitely mean a lot more, as Andrew Jackson is just going to scramble himself, nearly picks up the first down on that aforementioned scrambled. So that makes it 3rd and short. They only need to pick up a yard, and sure enough, they will pick up that yard and some more points on the board. John Keys is able to punch it in for the California Bears, and Cal is rolling right now up 31-7 as Louisville is just trying to figure out what the heck is even going on right now. Hopefully their quarterback can get him back on track, as the Cardinals do have yet another red zone opportunity late in the 3rd quarter, as the Cardinals will punch it in courtesy of a John Curtis touchdown. And it'll be interesting to see if they go for that 2-point conversion or not. And it looks like they are indeed doing that, trying to cut this down to a 2-possession game. Their quarterback trying to scramble but not going anywhere though. So still a mountain for Louisville to climb to get back into this game, down by 18 and only 7.5 minutes left to play. And listen, this quarterback Ryan Jackson, he's doing everything that he can to keep Louisville in this game, but at some point he needs a little bit of help from his teammates, and he doesn't get it necessarily, as Ryan Charles sees that pass dropped right before his eyes. That really should have been a 2-point conversion that ultimately should have been converted. So now it's 31-19, as again, just Ryan Charles just staying in there. He's hanging tough. He's able to finally get a touchdown pass. He has all of these yards, over 400 yards passing and a score, but hasn't led into like points necessarily. However, Louisville does have a chance to win this game, down by 8. You got to get a drive together though, and Ryan Charles finds a receiver down the sideline. He breaks the 2nd tackle. Can he make it to the end zone? No, but Jason Moore with a 64-yard reception. However, it leads to a 4th and down. They need 3 yards or the game is over. Charles trying to run for it, but it's going to be fumbled. California is going to recover, and the Bears were trying their very best to blow this game, to choke it away, but they still find a way to win anyways and get the 2-0. But now we check in on the defending national champions, the USC Trojans. USC, like Miami that we saw earlier in this episode. We saw Miami take on an FCS opponent, and now we're going to see Missouri State make the trek to LA to take on this defending national champions in the USC Trojans. And oh boy, this Missouri State team, they certainly look like a squad that is going to be overmatched and going to quickly be overwhelmed. Ben Scott gets to an extremely strong start, first and foremost, having 2 passing touchdowns in the 1st quarter. Could possibly make this a 3rd, but instead Nick Richards going to get the handoff, breaks away from 1 tackle, gets another one, does not bounce it to the outside. If he bounces it to the outside, I'm pretty sure that he is going to score, but that will not have a long-term effect onto the scoreboard though, as USC will once again score. So 21 points for the USC Trojans. Before we get into the 2nd quarter of action, we'll see if Missouri State can do any better as the game goes on, but it just seems like this FCS squad, maybe they're playing just a little too tight, knowing that they are taking on those defending national champions. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but what I do know is that USC does get a nice tune-up game because their schedule will get harder after this. However, for now, they're going to be more than happy with this 56-0 victory. But now let's go ahead and take some time to hop into our thumbnail matchup that we have. We got Notre Dame going on the road to play their season opener, and they're taking on this BYU squad who has played in week number 1, and they did actually win their first game of the season as well. Definitely a low-scoring game to start things out, but it looks like Notre Dame has a serious shot, though, of finally getting up on the scoreboard. Looking for the very first touchdown of the game, and on 2nd and goal, Greg Hunt is going to drop back. He's going to skid out of the pocket here, and he will run his way into the end zone. Touchdown for Notre Dame, and Notre Dame will take the lead early on. But BYU, give the BYU Cougars some credit. They are certainly hanging around. This was a team that was near the top 25 at the end of last season. Notre Dame certainly underperformed compared to the talent that is on this roster right now, but it looks like Notre Dame is starting to wake up a little bit. Got a 1st and goal opportunity with less than 2 minutes to play in this first half, and Greg Hunt gonna drop back, has all the time in the world, and finds his man in the corner of the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Fighting Irish. But BYU gets down the field themselves. They'll settle for a short field goal. So the Cougars leaving a bunch of opportunities. They got into the red zone quite a few times, but just couldn't capitalize in the red zone in the first half. Hopefully that doesn't shoot them in the foot as we continue to progress through this football game, as we only have a 6-point lead between these two teams right now. So very tightly contested game at the moment, but Greg Hunt is going to hand it off to his tailback, and his running back is going to do the rest of the work there as he's going to punch it into the end zone there. Notre Dame extends their lead. And then we get into that fourth quarter. Notre Dame gets another field goal. That pushes it to really the biggest lead of the entire game, a 16-point game. As BYU trying to respond to get back into this game, has all the time in the world, throws over the middle, but it's going to be intercepted, trying to do a little bit too much, and that will mean BYU will drop their first game of the season. Notre Dame will end up winning their opener 27-13. That being said, we have a few more games on the docket, as most notably we got number 7 Alabama traveling to Memphis. We'll check in on that later, but first we have Georgia, who just lost their first game of the season against number 9 Georgia. Well, they are now going to be on the road taking on Coastal Carolina. Both teams looking for their very first win of the season, and midway through the first quarter, Georgia will go ahead and draw first blood, as Elliott Hartman will have a short scamper on the toss play over to the left-hand side. But still a very close game. Coastal Carolina able to get a touchdown off screen. So the shot clears in their teal field. They are still very much in this ball game still. As we now progress into the second quarter, Elliott Hartman, he's going to have his second touchdown of the day. That now gives Georgia a 14-7 lead. As we'll throw over to the left-hand side, Brandon Chance will get the touchdown in the back of the end zone. So Georgia seems like it's starting to find its groove in the first half, something that it could not do against Florida State. Their offense really struggled and frankly sold them in their loss against Florida State. But now we're looking at a 3rd and goal as Georgia tries to convert in the end zone again, and they do. What a chance for Brandon as he gets a second receiving touchdown of the day. So Georgia rolling in this first half, taking a 28-7 lead into the locker room. But Coastal Carolina, they're going to try and claw their way back into this game. They do get a field goal, but Georgia will respond with a field goal of their own in kind. And now we get into about a minute left in the third quarter. Georgia again going to settle for yet another field goal there. So Georgia now has their biggest lead of the day, a 24-point lead, as we now get into 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Looking to throw over the middle, and I'm really not sure what we were doing there. Sean Ford, though, the true freshman out of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, he's going to have his first career interception. But that being said, Coastal Carolina could not do anything with that, though. So, there's that. Defense is playing a lot better here in this fourth quarter of action. Although, unfortunately, it might be too late at this point in the game, because there's only a couple minutes left at this point. And here we are. Georgia is just dominating this Coastal Carolina squad. Andre Bryant is going to get it into a goal line situation. And so Coastal Carolina not using their timeouts. They know that this game is over. But you know what Georgia decides to do? Well, they decide to run up this score a little bit. Andre Bryant's going to throw yet another touchdown, as that will seal the deal. Georgia does finally win their first game of the season, winning big against Coastal. Meanwhile, we have a little bit of unranked action between Virginia Tech and the Sooners of Oklahoma. And the Sooners are trying to Boomer Sooner, that Virginia Tech squad. I have no idea where I was going with that one, but Oklahoma does have a 7-0 lead right now as they try to extend said lead against the Hokies of Virginia Tech. It's some early non-conference action. We already come across a first and goal situation as they're going to try to run a little speed option over to the right-hand side, and I don't know how that running back got out of there, but Butler is going to score for Oklahoma. So a dominant first quarter for the Sooners as they open up with a 14-0 lead. However, second quarter was all Virginia Tech, though, as the Hokies do score there to try to close the gap a little bit. But this is a game where after the first quarter did not see many points scored. However, fourth quarter does get a little bit interesting after that. Virginia Tech does cut it down to a possession, but do need a stop from their defense in the red zone if they're going to remain in this game. But this quarterback is not giving up. He almost scores. He almost scores on that very play. So it's going to be third and goal still, but inside the 1-yard line. And that's going to be an easy conversion for the Oklahoma Sooners, as a Boomer Sooner is certainly alive and well. They missed the extra point, interesting enough, but it won't hurt them too much. Sooners win by 13. Now we go and check in on that number 7 team in America, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They open up on the road against the Memphis Tigers, as Memphis is looking to get to 2-0 here at the start of a brand new football season. But that being said, Alabama and Memphis, what they really do for a lot of this first half is they're just going to trade field goals with each other. Not really too much happening there in terms of actual touchdowns being scored. And it was certainly the case throughout the course of this first half. You know, we constantly be seeing opportunities where Alabama and Memphis would drive into like field goal range. But that being said, don't really see those opportunities being converted. But then we get to about 5 minutes left in the game. Memphis still only down by 6, and AJ Doyle is going to score. So that's going to put Memphis ahead of Alabama. And that last score was the ultimate difference, because Memphis, well, they end up stunning Alabama. What a surprising development. As now we get into the last couple of games that we do have here in this episode. We got UCF going on the road and taking on the number 12 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. But what we do see here is that this game starts with a little bit of Sicko's committee kind of feel to it. I mean, we're getting towards the end of the first quarter. We've seen a grand total of 2 points scored in the entire game thus far, but UCF looks to get the first offensive points on the scoreboard finally as we're closing in towards the end of the first quarter. Flowers is going to keep it himself on the read option, and Flowers will make that a much more manageable third and goal for UCF, as the Knights will look to find the end zone. Can they do it on this play? They don't. They turn the football over in the end zone, and Penn State's defense is going to hold. They're going to hold it down. They'll get a touchdown in the other direction. So that turns into a 14-point swing. That is so critical. You can't have that go your way when you're trying to pull the upset against the number 12 team in the entire country. But either way, neither of these teams really have any serious interest in scoring, it seems like, right? Because we're late in the third quarter now. Neither team has reached double digits yet. That's the tough part in all of this. Finally, Penn State will accomplish that with 3 minutes left to play in the game in the third quarter. But UCF, with how low scoring this game has been, this favors the Knights. This is kind of the game that UCF wanted, and sure enough, they pull it off somehow. UCF beats Penn State 17-16. So one more game that we got, it's Illinois taking on Tennessee, and this could have some MAC conference implications down the line in this newly aligned college football universe, where geographics actually make sense from a geographical standpoint. The conferences actually do make sense. And it's even more important because with the new 12-team playoff in the NCSL, winning your conference means you get an automatic berth into the college football playoffs. So Tennessee and Illinois look to certainly get off on the right foot in those regards, trying to make it to that conference championship game. And Illinois will score first. They'll take a 7-0 lead against this Tennessee Volunteer squad on the road. But Tennessee will get on the board shortly after. They'll get a field goal there. But Illinois will look to respond in kind. We have 5 minutes left in the first half. Paul Gordon gonna take the handoff and nearly picks up the first down on the ground there. He'll pick up 7 yards there, setting up a 3rd and short, as I'm sure this is going to end up being a triple option. It is, and it's going to be a score for Alex Walker, who is not going to be walking his way into the end zone. Had to earn it at the goal line. Well, we certainly got it there. And Illinois humming along really strong. They actually will hand it off to not Alex Walker, but this is Alex Taylor. He gets his first carry of the day, goes for 12 yards there. And now goal line situation. Illinois looking for points on the board again, and they get it with Paul Gordon, who gets his first rushing touchdown of the evening. And the Fighting Illini, well, they're certainly giving Tennessee everything that they can handle. And, oh, Tennessee would have loved to have that scored again in the first half, but it gets picked off. So Illinois with a convincing lead at the moment, 21-10 your score. But the Volunteers look to keep themselves in the hunt as Tennessee looking at a goal line situation. 2nd and goal. It's gonna be a fake handoff. It's a read option for Tim Landrum. He is going to keep and he'll find his way into the end zone. And all of a sudden, we're looking at a Tennessee team that not only has the lead, but they're looking to extend that lead as well. Tim Wilson gonna get the carry, and he'll pick up the first down as they look to finish this quarter in emphatic fashion. Landrum on the keeper, breaks a tackle, and he's gonna score again. Another rushing touchdown for Tim Landrum. And how about this? Tennessee on top, and they're looking to slam the door shut on this Illinois Fighting Illini. If they score another touchdown on this drive, that just might as well do the trick. 3rd and goal inside the 5-yard line. It's a big 3rd down. Landrum is going to pitch it out to Tim Wilson, who does the rest of the work by shedding a couple of defenders off his back. So it's pretty safe to say that I think Illinois is going to lose this game. And they were up significantly. They were up 21-10 at some point, but 28 unanswered points in the second half. It's been rough to see Illinois play football at all in the second half, but they're going to look to try to close the gap just a little bit here, as they'll try to get their first point since the second quarter, as we got a 2nd and goal looking over the middle, and that is a dot. That was a tight window to throw it through, but it's not going to be enough, though, as Tennessee will start 2-0 thanks to his 10-point win over Illinois.
Now, I didn't notice that we had too many studio updates in this episode, but boy, did I wish we did, because, oh man,
we have some earth-shattering things that happened. Nebraska, they came off a tough loss to Texas. Well, things are only going to get worse as they lose to yet another Texas team. This time, it's North Texas beating Nebraska 49-35. Coach Gentry in a tough start to start his Nebraska tenure. But a little bit of a brighter note for the custom coaches. Northern Illinois wins 35-0. So Northern Illinois gets to 2-0. A good offensive start for custom coach Hammock Jr. We also see Kansas State get to 2-0 as they take down Sacred Heart 35-0 in what was FBS versus FCS matchup that we got to experience. As for the Mountaineers of West Virginia, they beat Eastern Washington 49-14. Coming off of a close loss to Tennessee, the Mountaineers finally get their first win of the season. In the meantime, Fresno State was able to take down another FCS opponent 56-17, and that was the season opener for the Fresno State Bulldogs. Hawaii continues to roll early on in the season as well as they take down FCS opponent North Dakota 35-3, and it allows the Rainbow Warriors to get to 2-0. As for South Alabama, they're coming off a big win against LSU. The Jaguars do win once again. Not as impressive as last week, but still get the job done against Chattanooga 28-13. Stanford is also able to get to 2-0 after beating Texas A&M last week. They beat down their FCS opponent that they got to schedule, 45-14 being your final score as the Cardinals get to 2-0. Auburn, meanwhile, does the same thing as they get to 2-0, winning 31-3. This is another lower-level matchup that Auburn gets to participate in. Meanwhile, North Carolina starts their season out unranked, but they go in the right direction. They open the season up against an FCS squad, winning 42-7 as the Tar Heels look good in their first game of the season. As for the Syracuse Orange, they were in the college football playoff back in year number 1. The Orange win big against Kent State, 45-7. The Orange are now at 2-0, while the Golden Flashes still search for their first win of the season. And then as we start to wrap up the notable game updates for week number 2, we have Iowa get to 2-0 as well. Although they were in a close one against an FCS team, 24-21 was the final score. The Hawkeyes dodged a major upset in this one. And finally, we have a rematch of the Sun Belt Conference Championship back in year number 2. Ole Miss ends up beating Tulane 49-31. Ole Miss gets to 2-0, while Tulane does suffer their very first loss of the entire season. So it's been a couple weeks now since we started year number 3, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to go look through and see, what kind of changes have we seen since the start of the season. Now, your top 10 is going to look pretty much the same to this point. We haven't seen any monumental surprises in the top part of the coaches poll, which is what these rankings are based off of right now. We do have a couple of changes, though, starting with number 9. Miami, they've just handled their business so far. They get to 2-0, and they win 62-14 against their FCS opponent. They will be taking on Florida in the next episode. Meanwhile, Florida State, we saw them beat Georgia, but they were on bye last week. They benefit from the bye as they move up 3 spots. Minnesota, same thing happened to the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. They move up 3 spots as well, in spite of not playing. As for the Florida Gators, nearly got upset by Southern Florida, but they found a way to win. However, they're going to need to play better if they're going to take down the Miami Hurricanes in the next episode. Hawaii continues its great season so far, getting to number 13 in the country. They could be a dangerous team out in the Pac-12 this year. LSU looking to bounce back after a really embarrassing loss to South Alabama, frankly. They do what they're supposed to do against Troy, winning by 17. They move up 3 spots because of that. As for South Alabama, they're still behind LSU. Even though they have a 2-0 start, they can continue to build off of that with a game against San Jose State next episode. Alabama, we saw them lose a tight one to Memphis, but they fall to number 16 in the country, although they do get to play an FCS opponent next week. Iowa, up 2 spots, but they are going to be on bye this week. Clemson is up 2 spots as well. They'll be taking on the Indiana Hoosiers next week. Oregon up a couple of spots as well. They get their first win of the year after losing to Ohio State back in week number 1. Southern Miss moving up a couple of spots as well, but I believe they're going to be taking on Oklahoma next week, so that will be an exciting game to certainly watch out for. Rice, we saw Rice ranked last year, and they still are ranked here in week number 3, or not week number 3. Yeah, it is week number 3, season 3. Rice moves up a couple of spots, and then rounding out your group is Memphis, who joins the group. They replace Penn State in the top 25. Nebraska, who's still here despite being 0-2. Arkansas, and then Auburn is going to wrap up your top 25 as of right now. So here we go. We are going to wrap things up here as we've had some very interesting results so far in the first couple of weeks of the season. I certainly didn't see Nebraska starting 0-2, but let me know down in the comments what has surprised you the most in the first couple of weeks of the season. In the meantime, if you enjoyed the content so far, I need you guys to go ahead and do me a massive favor. Smack that like button for me, and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. I hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.